impressive number for you, because I'm pretty sure you did like much more impressive live streams. But for me, you coming to my live chat, it's like you making me popular, which is weird because it should be other way around, right? It should be like the influencers making, like, so you doing me service. um
Well, I was just so excited because at Cosmoverse, what happened was we did this like, there was this like award show that was happening, and I didn't like the awards. They were too serious. They were like, oh, best developer, all blah, blah. I was like, no, we need better awards. So I created a second. I created the forked award show, and one of them, the categories was best troll, and I was asking people, who do I put in this? Who are the choices that I should put in the category? I think I put like Jacob the Kid in. I put a couple, and everyone's like Don Kryptonian. You have to put him in, and I'm like, okay, I want to meet who is this person that everyone keeps telling me to put for as a candidate for best troll.
that's the done. Like, I felt like we have not been very much in touch. I sent you some messages before and I couldn't reach to you. um but I feel I'm still like small, like Cosmos is this weird space, in opposition to other ecosystems, where developers are actually like on the forefront of popularity. Like, everyone knows Sunny, everyone knows Jack Zampolin, but the content makers are like no one in Cosmos. So I hope I can pass you guys at some point. um
Uh-huh.
but I didn't win that award, right? Like, was it Pupmos who won that?
No, I think Jacob won that one.
Well, Jacob shouldn't be there. He's just crazy, he's not the troll. He's just like this. um
I don't know. Where's the line between crazy and troll? Sometimes, I had a theory. I had a theory that I thought that Jay's like whole like mental breakdown back in like 2020. I always thought it's like 20% just like performance art.
I have the same. I have pretty close theory, like,
Hmm.
because I feel Jay is I mean, like, it's unfair to say. Like, maybe some people would get offended, but there is so many people having mental issues. So my belief is Jay has mental issues. Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what sort, but I think there might be the part of the performance in this. So we could bring up the Kanye, right? Kanye West,
Hmm.
and like,
Very similar situation, right?
yeah. So like, I see now like people on the Twitter, right, who dislike Kanye, they actually retweet him and saying like, oh, this guy is so stupid. But it's like, I feel he's playing you right now. Like, you
Yeah.
are you are getting fooled. So
I think it's a little bit of both. It's a combination, right? It's like a little bit of there is some like
yeah,
larger issue there. There is a little bit of performance art going into it as well.
yeah. So I'm trying to figure out Jay. Like, I do think he's very deep into a lot of conspiracies, right? Because I followed him during like all the COVID saga, and like some articles are, because I would consider Jay some like extremely clever, but some articles are like, would seem like bottom of the internet, like equal theories to like chemtrails theory, right? And it's like, how someone with this level of curiosity would go. But it's my opinion, because someone else could think, hey, this is solid articles, right? So
Hmm.
um
Yeah.
go on, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say, like, when it was like, going a little, he was going a little crazy, and he was talking about like the end of times is coming, and the great pestilence is here, the disease is coming. I will say it was about a month before COVID hit, so I don't know. Maybe he was onto something.
Maybe he's reading Chinese forums.
I
I
think possibly is. I mean, I know he spent a lot of time on the subreddit r/collapse, and I think just like spending too much time on that subreddit, you just kind of go, you know, a little crazy.
because
Anyway, what?
I can tell you there was this December 2019, right? And my wife, now wife, back then girlfriend, she was like coming to me and she was telling me about this new disease spreading in China, from the weird Chinese forums that she reads. And
Hmm.
I'm like, no, it's just like weird Hong Kong people, crazy theories. It's like nothing. And she's like, no, people are dying, right? And she's sending
Yeah.
me pictures and stuff. And I'm like, no, like you go into these crazy forums. And 1 month later, like there is this like, hey, the Wuhan wet market is getting shut down, right? So it was actually the truth. And then this mass panic started. So I guess maybe he was on these forums, right?
Yeah.
And
Everything sounds like a conspiracy theory until it's real. Like,
yeah,
who'd have thought this, the US government is like breaking sanctions to sell weapons to its biggest enemy in order to fund a revolution in a continent across the world. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's what the Iran Contra affair was. That's literally what was happening. We were selling weapons to Iran to fund a revolution in like
yeah,
Central America.
yeah. um I didn't look into, like, I should probably like go deeper in that. Like sometimes I'm just like not, but like US, that's what US doing, like, you know how what's the word, this destabilizing the enemies or whatever for their own benefits, right? um like the same, like, now that's stupid example, like the country that breaches the most of the human rights, aka Saudi Arabia, is also the strongest ally of US, right? It's like
Mhm.
there is so many, because Saudi is like super important for US.
I
um
mean, it's how we keep the dollar hegemony, right? It's part of the petrodollar system.
I remember like one of your words. So I watch you, and sometimes I some words get stuck in, and you said, "Oh, I like fiat. I think fiat is such an amazing invention." Like that's your words, like in some interview, and
Yeah.
I'm like fully agree with that. Like fiat is amazing. Like fiat is so great.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I would say like fiat currency had like one brilliant idea or like idea behind it, right? Which is what is the goal of money is you want this asset to remain stable, right? And it has price, right? Money is an
mhm,
asset. It has a price. Money today is an asset. It has a price. It has multiple types of prices, right? You have your CPI, your inflation, you have your interest rates is a type of price of money, but there's different types of prices. But the idea is at the end of the day, the goal is to keep the price stable. And if it's an asset, what does it do? It's based off of supply and demand, right?
yeah,
And all you need to do is the idea behind fiat currency was you want the supply of money to react to changes in demand for money. And this is the problem with Bitcoin and ETH and every other like cryptocurrency today that's trying to be money is you can't have a fixed supply system because as the demand for money changes, the
yeah,
price of money is going to
yeah.
fluctuate wildly.
Yeah, I'd love to talk more about this. So there's people screaming like Binance listing Osmosis. Hey people, let's
Mhm,
step back, because fiat is way more fascinating, like, and money subject, like, because my belief is like, we always go on Twitter and everyone try to scream what's right. My belief
mhm,
is barely anyone in this world understands money. It's such a phenomenon that we have the money, everyone uses that, but barely anyone understands how it works, right? Like
mhm,
many people see the increasing supply as the money as something very negative,
mhm,
where in fact it's positive, because you actually have to have coming supply in order for economic growth. Like maybe I'm wrong here, right? So
mhm.
many people,
You need some inflation. Some
yeah,
inflation is always necessary. You don't want no zero inflation, but
yeah,
the level that we have today is obviously it's
but
overinflating, right? But
well,
yeah.
there's two. Like one is inflation, but the other is also supply, right?
Mhm.
So supply can grow exponentially, and
Yeah.
like I remember, like 2020 hit, and US expanded the money supply by like 30%, and everyone started screaming, "We have 30% inflation." It wasn't inflation. We had no inflation back then. And you had examples in history where money supply would increase by like 3 times and the country would have no inflation. And the example was Japan from 80s to 90s. They increased the money supply by 3x, and created massive speculation bubble, and they did not suffer inflation. Like,
Well, no, but the inflation is always going to be lagging, right? Because
mhm,
what's going to happen? Okay, so we did have inflation, right? Even in
yeah,
2020, when the money started getting printed. How I think of this is like it's kind of like a what was being inflated was all the speculative assets, right? Your stock
yeah,
market and your crypto markets as well, right? And so it's kind of like a pool of money where like, okay, all the price levels are like this right now, like let's say all the price levels are even. Then you start injecting like money into the
mhm,
system, and the price of something has to go up, right? And what's
yeah,
happening is normal goods, your consumer price goods, those are all staying the same. And then your speculative assets, they were inflating in value because the more
mhm,
money was injected there. But at some point, what happens is it's a crash like that, right? Where they have to even
yeah,
out all that money that was going into speculative assets. That price, all the speculative assets crashed, and inflation started hitting. So
yeah,
the inflation had already started as soon as they started printing the money. It's just this delayed thing where it eventually has to crash like
yeah.
this.
Well, like, not sure if you heard of the because I think like all of the like it's all theories of like what causes that, like, the fractional banking reserve. It's all actually theory. It's very it's hard to prove it, and there is facts that like actually most of the countries don't use even fractional reserve, right? Like the money is like created by like from the free air by the private banks, which is also misconception. Like
Mhm.
people always use like, meme is that it's Fed print money. Like the paper money that is printed is like 3% of the supply. It's like not really like impactful. So there is this theory, that like printing money doesn't have to be bad, because you can increase the supply, right? You can create the credit, private banks, and let's say you have idea of the enterprise, so you take the credit, you invest this money, bring value back to the community. The problem is what we are doing with this increasing supply, and we did this in 2020. Like, most of the countries were absolutely stupid, because instead of like creating the supply to bring the innovation, they were printing supply. And like you would be easily, like you would be able easily answer what happened with this money that was given to people and these loans that were given. Like, they went into stock market and into crypto market and
Mhm.
created speculative bubble. Like, nothing went to the economy. So
Mhm.
we actually had the bubble. And these sort of investments, so the loans that are created for speculative investments, never push economy forward. They only
Yep.
create bubbles, and that's what we did. And that was the dumbest move probably I did, right?
The thing you mentioned about exactly, no, that's 100% right. The thing that you mentioned about like you want your supply to be reacting to like
Mhm.
the real economy. Do you know the story of how the Federal Reserve was originally designed? Was what they wanted to do was have a system that the Federal Reserve is not supposed to be a government bank. The Federal Reserve was designed that it can print new money collateralized, backed by 2% loans to like commercial loans. So it
Mhm.
has to be loans to Main Street. It can't be loans to the government, and it can't be loans to Wall Street. And that was brilliant because what that means is okay,
Mhm.
as the demand for of commercial loans increases, that means the demand for money is increasing. So that allows us to print more, to make more money
Mhm.
backed by that demand, right? It's just like it's a supply reactive system. And like this is how the Fed was designed. And then they changed their thing. Why? When was the Fed created? What happened like a year after the Federal Reserve was created? The US entered World War One, and the US was like, actually, that rule that we made about not letting the Fed loan to like take government loans, we are going to, we have a war to win here, so we changed our mind. We're going to change that rule, and like, And then by the end of the war, the Federal Reserve System was so filled with government bonds that it's like, okay, we're the government bank now. But then they have all these like legacy systems that like the rules say they're not allowed to buy from the government. So that's why you have these like banks that have to act as intermediaries between the Fed and the Treasury. But like in general, like, yeah, like my whole view is that the ideas behind fiat were good, but they are so left up to like the discretion of central bankers and governments to like be like subject to political whims that's what ruins the system. What we need is algorithmic fiat currency. Fiat currency whose like reactive model is like set in smart contracts owned by governance, not by like politicians and central bankers, right? That's so fiat is good, discretionary fiat is bad.
Yeah, but such a difficult point, because like you sometimes like these governments, despite being bad, sometimes they moves pull us out of the depression, right? So like uh,
Mhm.
in the Great Depression in 1930s, you still had the gold backed, right? Fiat. And then we
Mhm.
had like 3 years depression, so they left it and they printed supply like as the way, and we were able to leave that depression, right? So would it be possible with this kind of algorithm to prevent such situation and not do the downward spiral of increasing demand for fiat,
I
which would actually make the deflationary fiat?
I think the goal is that the government, a well-designed algorithm, should be able to account for these things, right? And
Mhm.
like, the goal is not you. The goal of a well-designed system is not to be overly rigid, right? Like overly rigid systems break. That's what rigidity is about. What you want to do is you want to bound the flexibility of things. You don't want them to like go on wild swings, right?
Yeah.
What you want to say like, hey, we want like this tighter band, and that's where we want things to fluctuate in. And it gives you a little bit of flexibility and leeway
Mhm.
to be able to react to things. So it's all about there's it's always what's the term in monetary theory, it's about like discipline versus elasticity, and you don't want one of like all of elasticity, which is what we have today, or you don't want all discipline, which is like Bitcoin hard money thing, which doesn't work either. It's always a balancing game of you need a little bit of both.
This was what I was like. Because I listened you speak of fiat, and to be honest, like I think I like respect you one of the most in Cosmos ecosystem, because I
Mhm.
do feel like you are trying to understand the money, like similarly as I'm trying. So I go make videos and I'm saying, hey, Bitcoin is shit, it's horrible, it doesn't have the properties. In fact, if we would ever move to the Bitcoin standard, and many people hate me for this, there would be so many people going hungry on the streets. Like you cannot do this. Like that would be horrible. But then I see Sunny tweets, right? And Sunny is Bitcoin is the uh, money of Cosmos. What? So can you maybe tell me what's your thoughts about what if me money is too scarce and too restrictive to the people, like what you think happens, and what you mean by saying that Bitcoin is money on Cosmos?
Yeah, so the problem is this term money is just way overloaded as this like as a concept, right? And so when I say Bitcoin is the money of Cosmos, I actually don't think there's any money. I don't think the end goal here is the concept of money itself changes. Why we decided to build a desk was our view is that at the end goal of all of this is that wait, what is money today? Okay, let's break this down. You have three primary functions, right? You have the store value, medium of exchange, unit of account. Let's talk about medium of exchange first, right? Today it's the asset that you use for payments. Um, the goal is I want a world where you can use any asset you want as a medium of exchange, and a merchant can receive any asset they want as a medium of exchange. So let's say, you know, And we do this a little bit today with Visa, right? So imagine I go to Europe and I swipe my credit card. I'm paying in dollars, but the merchant is receiving in euros. And that's kind of all like abstracted away from us. Well, what I want is that to be possible for all assets, right? Like I should be able to choose whatever portfolio of assets I want, and then people can the merchant chooses whatever portfolio, and then we just pay, and it just ends up in either of our portfolios. So there's no one money asset anymore. All assets can be used as a medium of exchange. Then you have questions about, okay, how do units of account work? How does store of value work? I can go into that if you'd like. But like, so this notion of like, okay, so where does Bitcoin come into this, right? Bitcoin is there's no one thing that's a store of value anymore either, right? What people use as a store of value is you want some basket of things, right? You have a portfolio that you use. And I think that Bitcoin, the goal, it has one goal, which is to replace gold, right? So gold is a very special asset in today's financial system, which is what it is it's the uncorrelated asset. It's the uh it's a game, it's a Schelling point game, right? So what happens is okay, so okay, I had a friend who was interning at Jane Street back in like 2016. And was interesting was the night of the 2016 US election, they had a poker game going on, but they had like two things up on the screen on their TV, which was one was prediction markets, so predict it on the Trump on the victory. The other was the U.S. peso exchange rate market, and what happened was all of Wall Street used the US peso exchange rate market as a Schelling point of this is the betting market game that we're going to use to bet on a Trump victory. And so it's interesting. It's just like, hey, everyone has agreed, hey, this market is what we're going to use as a betting game, and it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because everyone's using that same market. Gold is the same thing. Gold is this like market that we've all agreed as a Schelling point that when everything else goes to shit, we're all going to buy gold. There's no reason that gold is like special in this way other than it just become this Schelling point. I think the goal of Bitcoin is to replace gold in that function. And I think anyone who's trying to build a hard money system, they're not building hard money. What they're trying to build is build the new version of gold. And I think that Bitcoin is the only one that has actually or is making the most progress towards that goal. And I want to like it has the right mimetic value and like actual traction behind in this goal. And I think that's why I want to throw my instead of like trying to compete with Bitcoin on this, I want to help support Bitcoin in that goal. But that doesn't mean it's going to be the money. It's going to be one piece of people's portfolio that is their store of value.
Yeah. That is really good point. Like I do think I align with this, and I think crypto as the whole, as the space, could really be money because this system, like all the basket of the crypto assets, is like very flexible. So it's expanding in the moments of high demand and shrinking opposite. So like if I go to the like spot, I can easily pay it with my app, but there is the basket of thousand assets, right? If there is the need. um there's problem like with the Bitcoin. I don't know if the Bitcoin is really the gold. Like not sure if you agree with that, but what is Bitcoin? Like
It's
it
not
is
it
speculative, sorry, like it's speculative asset that is relying on the price performance of other speculative assets. It's actually moving exactly the same way. It doesn't move with
yeah,
gold, it moves with basket of other speculative asset. And this
you're
is
right.
why like Bitcoin is not money, right? Like it's that simple.
You're right. And I think Bitcoin is at this a little bit of this like weird position where, you know, arguably it's not doing very well right now in
Mhm.
its attempts to replace gold as that inversely correlated asset because, you know, people didn't buy Bitcoin when the market started crashing. People started selling Bitcoin. You're right. It's more correlated to the speculative asset side than the other side. And I think that this is a risk factor for Bitcoin in its attempts. It seems that like, but I'll say that it's out of all the other crypto assets, it is the closest to
Mhm.
you know being at least mimetically, narratively considered closer to gold. So Yeah, I would say Bitcoin is fighting. It's still the David fighting this Goliath that is gold, right?
Mhm.
And like, um, and yeah, it's not. We'll see how the market evolves to Bitcoin. And I guess my claim here is why I call myself a Bitcoin maxi in this perspective is instead of trying to like back these other horses of like ETH and all these other things. I'm trying to fight gold and replace gold, right? It's like, no, I'm just gonna like, okay, Bitcoin has out of all of these things that no one is winning against gold, Bitcoin is the only one that actually seems to have somewhat of a fighting shot, even though maybe
Mhm.
it's losing right now. Okay, I'm gonna put I'm gonna try to back that and like do whatever we can to help push that narrative.
Yeah. Well, I think it could have some place together with gold, right? And I was also thinking, does people still want gold? Because we had this weird trend in like past 15 years that
Mhm.
people like were aligning more like with the store of value of like utility assets. Like, and this was the age where like Amazon and Apple become very popular,
Oh,
and
always. Like
right.
utility assets are always going to be better than gold. The point of gold is just, like I said, it's just a shelling point on the inverse game,
Mhm.
right? And it's like if you hold it just as a hedge, nothing else, right? It doesn't have utility. Gold doesn't have utility, right? And so, but it has a high enough market cap to act. It's like okay, so imagine you want to short, like, okay, you have a certain amount of like longing ability on spot markets. We're talking about crypto here, right? You have a certain amount of longing ability, but the purpose of perp markets is to have a place where people can
Mhm.
short, and you need high enough liquidity in that market so that the people can hedge the long positions on spot markets with short positions on perp markets, right? And that's why the liquidity and volumes on perp markets are so high. It's the same with the gold. The market cap of gold has to be high enough to provide a short position on the world that like positive assets, right? Utility assets can have. So you can hedge utility assets with gold. And I think that's
Mhm.
when the real economy decreases, utility assets decrease in value, gold is supposed to go up in those cases.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always a balancing function there.
I do really like that you mentioned shorting, because like people don't realize that shorting is very important for efficient markets. Like in China, the shorting is illegal and it's very inefficient market. It's like really like you can see that like Chinese market like not very, and that's why I think like US markets are like way more efficient. Like I want to like, because as we are like with this store of value, like do you think the recent change of like Ethereum tokenomics, let's say, with the move to proof of stake was like, because I believe that Ethereum shoot themselves in the foot, like with trying to become this ultrasound money, which is absolutely, I hated this term, like because money doesn't have to be sound. That's the point. Like, and stop this rhetoric, because who will come to Ethereum if it's like on the top you have like Ethereum aristocrats, and the only point of Ethereum is like stake it for the APR, don't use it, don't like like I feel it's like weird paradox they created. Maybe I'm wrong here.
Yeah, I mean, sh- w- yeah, the whole term of sound money is like, it's always this like meme that the Bitcoiners created, and I think I don't know why the Ethereans like fell for the meme, and like, yeah, I mean, ETH trying to like connect itself to also compete in the same game that Bitcoin is in this like sound money. It's like, okay, that's cool. Good luck. I don't think you're like. I think inherently Ethereum is a little bit too progressive to try to be digital
Mhm.
gold, right? I think you need to be a little bit conservative to be like a digital gold kind of thing. And I don't think that. And if Ethereum wants to be like the money actually being used, like I don't know if its monetary policy is like going to be sufficient enough. So I mean, we'll see how it ends up playing out. To be honest, I
Yeah,
mean, I think that they kind of didn't have any other use case for what to do with Ethereum right now. So that's kind of what they decided to
yeah,
go with.
yeah. Look, that there's like everyone shouting like so. Someone
I think
thinks
part of
like,
it is like Ethereum didn't know what it wants to be when it grows up. It had
yeah.
too many narratives, and it's like we're trying to be the money, but we're also gonna be this MEV capture system. With we're gonna be like it had too many things. It has too many things going for it, and
Mhm,
some of these things are in tension with each other. Like you, and like it's hard to. That's why I like. That's one of the reasons I like Bitcoin, where it's not trying to do too many things. It's like
mhm,
okay, we're gonna pick one thing and try our best to do that one thing.
mhm.
It's an app chain. Bitcoin's an app chain.
Yeah, like that also can be the bad thing, because like we cannot really like people like underestimate how much like we cannot really predict the future, and there's like always this paradox, like so I say like the paradox with like layer layer ones, right? They will, well, we will always be getting like faster, cheaper, more scalable layer ones that people will be like moving next to, and we cannot like really solve that paradox. And that could like be the, and that's also like paradox for Bitcoin, that we'll be like just getting this better stuff, and are we going to stick to Bitcoin here, like which has this great role, but it might simply at some point fade away naturally.
One of my friends has this like good analogy where like I mean look, blockchain communities are kind of like religions anyways.
Hmm.
But he often has this like analogy where like Bitcoin is like Catholicism, and then like everything else is like Reformation, right? And it's like okay, what happens is like yes, once the Reformation happens, then you have all the Protestant systems, but then they keep forking like crazy, right? And there's
Hmm.
this tail, and majority of Christians are not Catholic, but Catholicism is still the largest out of everything because everything else keeps forking, and then all the conservatives manage to like all the
Hmm.
conservatism manages to not keep forking, and so there is this like tail end, and I think that like Bitcoin and Catholicism take this like very one
Hmm.
position on the tail end.
Well, that makes me more bullish on Bitcoin, what you just said about not because of the religion. I come from Catholic background, not that religious, but like I was um like when people ask me what religion you are, like I'm not saying I am non-religious, but I always say I come from Catholic background, because it's more like the cultural background is more important of like the beliefs that you have. Anyway,
Yep.
like I just wrote it. So um but um yeah, that's like excellent point. Look, like people really scream in the for the boring stuff. They keep mentioning some Osmo token. I'm not really sure what's that, but and people think maybe I scheduled the talk like because like around 1 hour ago, I think the news appeared that Osmosis is listed on Binance. Maybe that's why you were late.
I was just busy playing Avalon, which is a board game. I lost
Yeah,
track of
so you are just ghosting me, like not
time.
giving a shit about this. But yeah, like did you know about this, or they just decided to do about themselves? Were they in touch with you?
They were in touch with us for technical integration stuff. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
they wanted to, yeah, I mean, this is what number of exchanges always approach us, and we always tell them, hey, we don't get involved with listings. We don't pay. We definitely will never pay for a listing, and we're
Hmm.
definitely not like, I don't know, we're not. We don't care whatever you do. We actually prefer you don't, but like, um, we provide technical support. Like,
Hmm.
hey, this is how you run nodes. Here's the links to our docs and stuff. So I did know it was coming because like why are a bunch of Binance people suddenly messaging me asking for docs? But yeah,
Did you leverage trade Osmo long
uh,
100x on the news?
I did not. One, there's no way of leverage trading Osmo, but
Yeah,
also just don't day trade.
yeah. Like
And I use. I don't think I've traded Osmo in like months. I'm just
mhm,
hodling.
mhm. Yeah, it's just not for me. Like
Mhm.
like I don't know. The trading is such a weird game that it's also like throwing darts. No one really
Yeah,
knows.
I
Like
learned that I was a bad trader, so I'm like I'm just gonna go build a dex instead of trying to
yeah.
trade.
Well, you're quite good at this, but this is awesome, because even recently you said like Do you want to participate in Cosmos? Go on Kraken, buy atoms, move atoms to Osmosis. So now it's like, hey, withdraw atoms from Binance, and you are there. Like that's
It'll
it.
definitely help the UX process. I think the
Mhm.
UX onboarding has been really painful for like getting onto Osmosis, like this whole idea of like having to
Mhm.
go buy atoms to like go do
Yeah.
this. And it's like, you know, I think being able to just directly onboard onto Osmosis directly will just make it so much easier. What our goal is, we want to keep fighting to make sure that Osmosis is the primary market for Osmo. And I think having a year of liquidity and volume and everything built up on the actual DEX was important. So, you know,
Mhm.
I'm happy that like, we still, haven't gone on centralized exchanges for like over a year. And I'm hoping that Binance and whatever centralized exchanges, they don't like. I still hope that Osmosis will always remain the primary
Mhm.
venue. These
Mhm.
will remain like secondary markets.
It was like such a weird thing. Like Osmosis was just so successful, essentially. Like Osmosis launched in the bear market, like, because I think we had the peak in the like spring 2021. So Osmosis actually launched after that, and the fact that it was able to build such a deep liquidity, like, and then like got wrecked by the collapse of Luna and still survive, and now liquidity is growing, like, um it shows the resilience. And now I feel like with this listing on the exchange, maybe it's time that Osmosis really become the hub, right? Like, it's just get more listings, and it removes the middleman of Atom. Like, Atom is the middleman, and I do like Atom because it was like such a big liquidity. But I'm pretty sure all Atom maxis are upset at this listing now. Like, they will be like, oops. What's the favorite centralized exchange of Sunny?
My favorite centralized exchange,
Yeah.
uh, probably Coinbase. I think it's the one that I use the most, and I'm an American, so it's what I
Yeah.
kind of have to use because everyone else has blocked me. But like I don't know, I really like Coinbase. So I think their UX is like
Hmm.
very seamless, and like easy to use for new people to onboard
Yeah.
onto. I also like I think crypto.com is also like I
Mhm.
really like their app. I think it's very simple to use, and I think they've done a good job at like onboarding a lot of new people. Like so many
Mhm.
people I know, um like they start using crypto because of the credit card. Or like my uncle on Christmas, he's like, oh, I use crypto.com because they sponsored the UFC. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, okay. I guess that kind of stuff works, like.
Yeah.
And so I always liked crypto.com's like ability to like act very differently than everyone else. Like I think all
Mhm.
the other central exchanges are like kind of like all doing the same thing, right? They're all just like copying each other. Well,
Yeah.
crypto.com makes like very unique, innovative approaches to things. So I always really liked them for that reason. And obviously I also just like the fact that they've always just been like really good like public goods contributors. Like they've been,
Mhm.
there's a lot of centralized exchanges that use like Cosmos software, right? And like, Binance obviously is one
Mhm.
of them and others as well, right? But like they don't like contribute back as much, like they don't upstream and stuff. Crypto.com, they look, the Ethermint code base, like the one that's like used in Evmos and stuff.
Mhm.
I would say it was actually like everyone thinks it's the Evmos team that like
Yeah.
built that software, right? I would say it's actually really like 50-50 between the Evmos team and the crypto.org team to build Chronos. So like they like built that stack that now like so many Cosmos chains are using, right? They were early adopters of IBC. When Osmosis launched, only 8 chains supported
Mhm.
IBC, and Crypto.org chain was one of them. And so I always and like even with their internally, they use like IBC solo machines in order to like I don't
Yeah.
know. I just really like that they've always been like and they don't hide it either. If you go on Kronos's website, it's like the tagline is an EVM, the first EVM built on Cosmos. And so I don't know. I've always found them to be like really awesome community participants and members.
That's really cool because, for example, I didn't know that. I would assume that the Evmos, like, was the first EVM here, like even, but it seems not. I think also crypto.com is here where I live in Hong Kong, right? They are. This is like really sad. There was such a brain drain in Hong Kong of this. Like everything used to be registered here, and now everything is leaving. I think crypto.com is still here, and majority of the team is maybe here.
Mhm.
But I never use them actually. But like I guess I like what they're doing. Is Coinbase allowing you to trade with small fee? Like, can you do bank transfer on Coinbase? Like, how you do it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, as I'm able to convert uh, fiat from a bank into
Hmm.
USD
Right.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
fee,
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
exactly
Yeah.
what it wants.
I use Kraken. I really like to use Kraken for they allowed me to open account on the passport with not residency with my citizenship. So like that's what's like that's why I chose them. Maybe I shouldn't say that.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I the bank transfers because like I don't like these exchanges like I mean, everyone maybe allow you for the bank transfers, but with some restrictions. Because many people use the card. It's like the dumbest thing ever. Like you pay 3% fee. What the hell are you doing with your life, right? Like what you are.
Mhm.
Um, so I guess you want the Coinbase to list Osmosis. Like I think it will happen once the Binance did this. It's just like everyone's gonna. It's too important, especially that Atom is trending, right? So like how we onboard the Atom. Let's connect to the major DEX. That there will be the fees because like in and it might even surpass in volume the Atom. Um, I like um sorry wanted to say something god damn. Let's go with like we might get back to Osmosis, but like Atom 2.0, like everyone chatting about this. And also like I made the video about contributors, like because people like to say who contributes the most. And I think it might be that like a lot of people from Osmosis team are contributors to the Cosmos stack, isn't it? The Cosmos
Mhm.
SDK. And I made the video and I said like, hey, like Jake One is not even contributing to Cosmos actually. And some people like say, hey, that's not true. Like that's the so I want to know your opinions. Like maybe shout out the names who actually contributes the most to Cosmos.
I
You
mean,
know.
if you guys want, the real answer is like names you guys haven't heard of, right? Like, you probably want me to say like, oh, Zaki or Jay, or honestly, if you go look at who, it's really like, there's a lot of folks at the Interchain GmbH and at Informal and Osmosis Labs and like all these companies who are like really the ones who are the biggest contributors.
Mhm.
Some people are just good at like talking in front of on a Zoom chat, but like, the real contributors are sort of like back there. And I mean, one of the things that's like really cool with there is no one company
Mhm.
that's the main contributor, right? It really is split between like Interchain GmbH, Informal, Strangelove, Osmosis Labs, Regen. So Regen is one that I hope people know how much they've contributed to the
Mhm.
Cosmos SDK. And yeah, Occlusion. There's a lot of sort of contributors to the SDK. It really is this sort of mesh development
Yeah.
system.
I want to know like it's in the basic words, right? Like sorry for mentioning Jay so often, because it's such a mystery, right? Because this is the guy who came and like create this, created Cosmos. I mean, with a few other people, obviously. But I think the base idea came from him. Um, so like, if you could, is Jay like really amazing developer? Would you say, or it's like overstate? Like because no one knows like how
Mhm.
good is Jay? Like, is he great developer? Is there other people who you actually appreciate more?
Mhm. I would say that like I think Jay is a visionary.
Hmm.
Has like some crazy, brilliant ideas. Sometimes they're hard to understand and digest. But like Tendermint, brilliant. Tendermint
Hmm.
consensus, brilliant idea. IBC, brilliant idea. I think sometimes when you go down into the weeds, it doesn't always like it's not always the best ideas.
Mhm.
Like sometimes, and he's very stubborn and difficult to work with in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. Like this was the whole um amino versus protobuf thing, which is like it's about how we encode stuff in the SDK.
Mhm.
And like there was benefits of amino undoubtedly, but there was also drawbacks and like
Mhm.
his unwillingness to like discuss them with people it and like yeah that it caused it made it very difficult to work with him.
Mhm.
And so and oftentimes it'll be it's a little bit unreliable where like he would say
Mhm.
he would go off and build something and he'd be like, oh, I'll have it done in like a week or 2 weeks, and then no one hears from him for like a month and a half, and we're like, yeah, okay, we're just gonna start doing it the other way because I don't no one's
Yeah.
able to contact Jay. Where is he? And then he comes back and he gets mad because he's like, wait guys, oh, I said I was going to do it this way. And he's like, yeah, but we haven't heard from you in 2 months.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's kind of like, that was like a big sort of challenge. I think there are certain things that you know, like everyone, I think some of his
Mhm.
ideas are really good. Some of them are not so great. And, there's
Mhm.
things I definitely disagree with. So, yeah.
Do you mind like Atom 2.0? Like I'm still so like it's such a difficult concept to I mean like everyone like trying to make it so complicated. I haven't even heard to like full discussion with the crypto cryptocito,
Hmm.
but like I went there and I liked your point because you're like whatever it doesn't I feel like for you it's like it doesn't really matter, you know. um but like could you lay down like what's the have any problem with Atom 2.0?
Um, Not really. Like, I mean, I can go into
Mhm.
the details. I think high level, generally very uh supportive of the direction, right? Like I think
Mhm.
it makes a lot of sense. Um I think on some of the details, I think like the interchain allocator stuff, it's a little bit unclear how that's gonna work out or compete with like the internal MEV systems on like different chains, right? Like Skip, for
Mhm.
example, is building internal MEV capture into Osmosis. And so it's like, why would they use the hub's
Mhm.
allocator? Or like, and I think there's like questions around the allocator, but those are or the allocator is just so underspecified right
Mhm.
now. It's this very high level idea. I think Tarun Chitra, he had a tweet about he had a little thread about this where he's like, yeah, the allocator is a nice idea, but like it doesn't have any of the details of like how it would actually
Mhm.
work. And I think that's kind of valid. When it comes to the sorry, I meant to say the scheduler, not the
Mhm.
allocator, the XP stuff. The allocator is, I definitely think that's the right thing directionally. Like the hub should be using its it doesn't have enough of a community pool and it should be using that community pool to incentivize the usage of Atom in other things and even
Mhm.
just put Atom on the balance sheet of other chains, right? Like so
Mhm.
we do this with Osmo. This is one of the reasons why we do loan swaps, right? Or we do token swaps from the community pool is because okay, look, we have this like partnership with this thing that we do with Axelar, right? And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, get them some awesome give them Osmo so they are incentive aligned with Osmosis. I think we should do something similar with Mars as well, right? Like, okay, let's get Osmo into the community pool of Mars and get Mars into the community pool of Osmosis so that these communities are incentive aligned with each other. And I think
Mhm.
that the Cosmos Hub has failed to incentive align the rest of the Cosmos community with Atom. Like
Mhm.
everyone's like, oh, everyone keeps airdropping to Atom. It's like, yeah, that's like a one-way thing. Like, you know, the like other communities give things to Atom and there's like no reciprocity. And like
Mhm.
I think that the Atom needs like the Cosmos Hub needs to learn how to I gave this example of I had this tweet where I was like, this guy in the corner of the party being like, they don't know I'm the hub, right? Because you can't just go around telling people you're the hub. You don't want to be the guy in the party who's like in the corner, like, oh, I'm the hub, right? You want to be the life of the party. You want to have a lot of friends. You want everyone being around you. And that's the strategy that Osmosis
Mhm.
takes by building relationships with other chains. And I think and I think the allocator system of the Cosmos Hub. That's the goal is not really to be an investment DAO. I actually don't think it's going to
Mhm.
be good at investment DAO. The best investors are not going to be like, you know, they're going to use their own capital, right? They're not going to use the hub's capital, right? What it is it's a way of give a lot using it to align incentives. And we tried to propose the Cosmos Hub do this early on in like uh right when Osmosis launched. We actually were the original plan was to use Atom as the base pair of all the pools in Osmosis. But
Wow.
then we're like, oh wait, we could also just do this with Osmo as well. Why do we have to use Atom as the base pair? And then we're like, okay, well, let's give it up to the hub for them to decide. Like, okay, let's see if they have any reciprocity. Like, okay, why don't we just use a little bit of tokens from the Cosmos Hub community pool to fund, put incentives on making on Atom based pools on Osmosis, and that would have helped make Atom the base pool asset of Osmosis. But the Cosmos Hub rejected that proposal. And like we're like, okay, I mean, clearly the Cosmos Hub has no interest in like seeing Osmosis succeed. So we're just going to use Osmo as the base pair for everything. And so that's kind of like what I mean, where like the hub lacked it needs a treasury to be. And one of the big reasons why people said the hub shouldn't do this is because we were asking for a small amount of money, in my opinion, which is like
Mhm.
around $1 million, which is like, yeah, it's high, but it's like in the scale of this market cap of these chains, that's pretty small.
Mhm.
But people's point was like, well, that's like 20% of the Cosmos Hub community pool. And it's like, okay, the problem is your community pool is not big enough in that case. And I think that
Yeah.
this is going to help fix that.
But my problem is like that everyone like gets so fixed up on this like community pool. Also, I want to say like this decline from the hub was probably the best for Osmosis ever. Like because the if Cosmos would agree, the Cosmos would have way deeper liquidity, would be great benefit. But because of that, kind of Osmosis happened to be the hub for the exchange. Let's call it this way. But like I I don't see the problem with people like keeps like talking about dilution and stuff. Like why don't we just like do now the proposal and like let's mint 5 million atoms?
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like let's mint it. Like let's mint it and like whenever we need it.
The
It's like
dilution doesn't make any sense because the like what it's the equivalent of like print. If you have a company, right, you
yeah,
can create called unallocated shares, right?
yeah,
And if you have unallocated shares, they're not in circulation. They don't
yeah,
like change the market. They don't like affect the market, right? It's like, so normally what companies will do is they'll create like employee options pools or equity pools,
yeah.
right? So what you do is you print like this much shares so
Mhm.
that you can allocate to employees as they join. And it's like the printing of those shares isn't dilution because it's not actually liquid and in the market. It's unallocated shares.
That was exactly point I was making. So I want to like this Atom 2.0 discussion, and people scream dilution, and I'm saying like, look, the companies continuously print the shares. This is how the funding works, and this is how it always worked. This is not dilution. We're just gonna print it, and it's gonna incentivize um
The,
investments. And as long as investments are not non-speculative investments but beneficial for the hub, that's how it works. You can also do the buybacks if there is like any benefits, what companies do. Like, I'm not sure if like Apple shares are declining because they do the buybacks, but they will issue new shares when there is need of investments, and you are flexible with that. So I don't see the point, like, but it's like such a small issue. Like we could literally like just, okay, we're just gonna mint, like we're just gonna do upgrade and mint $5 million, sorry, 5 million atoms, and next year if we need, we're gonna do 10 million. And it's like, it's not dilution, and no one would even care. Like why the main discussion is around this point? Like I don't get that.
yeah, I mean, what you need to do is like what the pre-minting does is it sets a cap, and then what you do is you give it to a okay. So how does okay, so let's look at a company, right? What
Hmm.
happens is like the board and shareholders have to agree that like, hey, we're gonna mint this percentage of new equity, let's say
Hmm.
5%, to be given out to you know new employees over the next 1 year, right? And but then what they do is they entrust a certain set of stakeholders, usually the executives of a company, to
Hmm.
decide how to allocate those shares to maximize value for the company, right? And it's like, so the point of the minting is that, like, hey, let's pre-mint this much so we don't have to go through governance every time we want to allocate.
Hmm.
You know, a company shouldn't have to go to the board every time they want to hire a new employee just to allocate them uh, uh, equity, right? So it's like, no. So that's why you do the pre-minting, but it's not. And the idea is you have to trust the executives to make decisions that benefit the company. Now, I think what's missing in the Adam 2.0 proposal is a proper governance model of how, who's going to make these decisions of how these treasury is spent. And I feel that was just left way too vague. And I think Jay's whole point was that, like, hey, one of his points is that, like, hey, we need more details on the governance of this treasury, this unallocated capital, before we decide to mint that unallocated capital.
Yeah, like this is my main issue. I want to ask you about this, and I feel this is also issue with Osmosis and other chains. So those chains function, let's say, as very similar to democracies. Okay, I
Mhm.
think it was Plato. It's in Wikipedia. The Plato had issue with democracy, and I feel it's kind of like has the point, and I feel Osmosis suffered from it. Um, when there is like, and there is already discussions in the atom of creation the DAO that will manage that. My belief is that it doesn't do anything. Like the sub DAOs do not ever improve the network. If would be no sub DAOs or we have sub DAOs, there is no difference. With only difference that sub DAOs create additional cost because the people are somehow incentivized to do something. So
I, I
when
I
you
I would disagree. I think that the goal of a sub DAO is that, like, or I think, like, for example, the Osmosis grant program is, I think that is very effective. And the reason is that the goal of something, for example, the goal of something like the grants program is that its job is to, like, sort of do a little bit of negotiation with the
Mhm,
grant recipients, because what happens is grant recipients come in and say, hey, we need $5 million to build our thing, and it's like,
mhm,
no, you don't. You need maybe $500,000, not 5 million. And it's this negotiation that they're doing
mhm,
with grant recipients, right? But the problem is negotiation can't happen in public, because otherwise there's asymmetric information. We saw this happen with Sushi, right? Sushi tried to
mhm,
do, like, negotiation with their VCs. Like, so the Sushi DAO tried to do a raise, but they did it on their forum. And this asymmetric information here, the VCs get to see everything the DAO is thinking and considering in their strategy and negotiation, while the DAO doesn't get to see what the VCs are doing,
mhm.
right? And that's like, you can't negotiate when one side has as fully transparent information, right? And so the purpose of, like, something like the Osmosis Grants program is the uh, Osmosis DAO has basically elected a, a smaller set of people, in this case,
Mhm.
Reverie, as well as a set of, like, multi-sig members, to negotiate on behalf of the DAO. And I think that's, like, necessary if you want the DAO to be able to make, like, any sort of business decisions.
I always see the problem with this, because it's like I will expand on the previous. When you have like the community chains and like there are people who don't pay attention to this, but you might notice, hey, like if I get engaged, if I will write proposals, if I will bring discussions, and if I'm good at marketing myself, I can really like suck out that teeth of prosperity. Like it's like I see people really coming. They don't bring that value, but they are very good at presentation and they are good at extracting the value, which is often seen positive because they see, hey, they do something. But it's like this kind of like if you have like sub DAO is often like biased. It doesn't have like the equal competition. And someone was sending me like, because I
Yeah.
tell you, I never was like really seeing the what Osmosis lab, for example, is doing. but there was sometimes discussion, hey, this funding is actually huge, and there is
Mhm.
not even competition to what they do.
Yeah.
They request the amount, they get the amount. What about if you can do the things at the third of the costs? And this
Yeah.
competition doesn't exist. And I think this is problem, and this is huge in efficiency of this community driven chains. Like this is big problem. Many people say, hey, this is positive, but it's like, no, if you have like very strong structure, and if you have the guy who rules that, he's
Yeah.
like, we gonna issue the competition, and the best offer is gonna get that.
Yeah. No, yeah, I mean, these are always. I agree. I think that maybe
Mhm,
there should be more competition. Maybe we should have multiple entities giving like
mhm,
grants, or we should be doing like. I agree, competition is important. Part of the problem with this whole like, oh, people will be like, oh, I know someone who can do this 3 times cheaper, but then you look at the quality of the stuff these people create, and it's like, oh, that's kind of shitty quality. It's like it's always just like it's this hard
mhm,
thing. It's like to like you can't only look at cost. You do have to look at like the quality of the work being outputted and stuff. So there's
mhm.
there's always like trade-offs here.
Yeah, well, the quality is also like, but it's like I see it with Atom like 2.0. There's already people discussing about who will be on the like managing sub DAO, and it's like it just annoys me. Like, why would you already? Because for me it would be like, hey, put there like someone like, you don't have to, like, people don't realize you don't have to put there people from the community. Like, you can put the like, you can employ the people with
Mhm,
the like best qualification, pay them salary, and make sure they are not even from the community, to make sure they're like unbiased. Because
mhm,
I feel this is sort of the democracy that brings you, hey, if I get engaged, I can really get a lot of benefits. So it's like, I'm being bad actor for trying to extract the value, for like pretending of
yeah,
providing of the value.
yep.
um mhm,
No, I mean, I agree. Yeah, it's building companies is hard. Building companies in fully transparent, like parent public systems is even harder, right? And it's like, and so okay, going back to the whole Atom 2.0 stuff, right? Like I think
mhm,
there's an interesting question where that's one of Jay's points. Is like, hey, let's just like not even try. Like, why are we trying to make Atom into this like investment DAO sort of thing
mhm,
and make it sort of thing? And I think, like I said, I think that's part of the mistake where it's like I don't think that's what it's about. I don't think purpose of Atom 2 is to actually be good at being investing, right? I think that the goal is to make Atom be more money like and be more popular, used as a store value asset within the
mhm.
Cosmos ecosystem. Um, so that's like my take. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about the whole photon thing. I mean, I think it's a little bit.
Yeah, they didn't even look into this. But the point about, because I always viewed Atom as money, and like, also there's big group of people shouting, "Hey, Atom has bad tokenomics. It doesn't accrue the value." I mean, just
Mhm.
stop looking at the token price. Look at the market cap. Like that's where you see. Look at the airdrops. So I wonder, do you think that if we actually going to slash um all of that inflation, right? Maybe it's basic question: are we keeping the money proper, like the money property of Atom, and putting it into like store of value basket now, or
That's
or
like
not?
my going back, like bringing us back to the previous discussion, right? That's
Yeah.
the whole thing of like, what does it mean to be a money asset? Is Atom supposed to be this sound money style
Hmm.
asset? If so, like how many things can win at being the sound money asset? Right now we have like Bitcoin, and then far and much the front runner, then maybe ETH, and then definitely ETH, right? ETH is definitely the second runner, and then after that, where is there? It's like I don't know, Dogecoin maybe. I actually think Dogecoin is actually a pretty good store value.
Hmm.
And like so, or not store value, but it's a very good. Wait, meme coins. How about that? That's really what it is. Like what we're trying. Gold is a meme coin. Bitcoin is a meme coin. ETH is like can't decide if they're trying to be a utility token or a meme coin.
Hmm.
Dogecoin is we're a meme coin. And so it's like, hey, is the purpose of Atom to be a meme coin? Whether it's supposed to be like, hey, let's be like, that's what money is, right? It's like, oh, it's just what is the value proposition of Atom? Who cares? It's the meme that represents Cosmos ecosystem. That's one
Hmm.
option. or you go the more utilitarian route where like, hey, let's become an actual utility and have a product and an app and everything. And my take is, like I said, I want to put my horse, I want to back Bitcoin as like the most credible meme coin and like the most likely to actually replace gold. And I think once Bitcoin starts to be available in the Cosmos ecosystem, I think it's going to massively become the like, it's going to become the main reserve asset of a lot of things,
Mhm.
right? And so that's why I'm like, maybe there's a world where Atom can like build enough dominance in the next couple of years until Bitcoin comes over, right? But like that's the question. It's like, do you want to compete against Bitcoin or do you want to go build a utility app chain? And that's kind of the decision that has to be made right now.
Um, like Osmosis was at the forefront of one other thing. Osmosis was at the forefront, I feel, maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, of tokenomics. Um, Osmosis did that. By the way, are you in rush? Because I don't know if like,
Nope.
okay. So um, there was so Osmosis first airdrop, I believe, was before Sieve Chain, right? I didn't get the airdrop, by the way. I got in Cosmos in like March 2020, which was like pretty good, and I held it on Coinbase for over a year. So like I remember when there was just the page of Osmosis, and they would like check your airdrop, and I was pasting my like Coinbase or Binance address. Didn't know. Anyway, Osmosis came up with this tokenomics of turning, right? Turning. Um,
Yeah.
After that, all the other Cosmos tokens copy Osmosis tokenomics. It's like, why would you do it? You don't even know if it's the best tokenomics out there. I feel Osmosis came out like just to test it, right? And there's always you riding the trend.
Yeah.
So
It was honestly like, why did that tokenomics design get chosen? It's like, well, I don't know. Like, we wanted higher emissions at the beginning and we wanted
mhm,
to go down over time. Um, I think people like the meme of fixed supply tokens. I don't
mhm,
think that's actually sustainable long term, but like, and it's like, um, we were like, okay, thirdening, that's a cool idea. That's funny. It's kind of like Bitcoin happening. And then it's like, hey, if we start with 100 million and then do 300 million first year and then like do a thirdening, and that gives you a max supply of 1 billion. And we're like, wow, all these numbers end
mhm,
up so pretty and like they fit together. What a nice set of numbers. Let's just do
mhm,
that. But yeah, there's no like, I don't know what the right tokenomics are. And we wrote this in the blog post where like we said, hey, we fully expect that these tokenomics might be
mhm,
changed, right? Like where it's unclear whether these are the perfect tokenomics. And maybe Osmo should be changing its tokenomics at
mhm,
some point, right? Like, and that's for the current Osmo holders to decide. Our goal was to make sure we can come up with a good distribution of Osmo to early contributors and liquidity providers and users, right? And then it's like, okay, how do we, you know, then at some point, governance will figure out how to
mhm,
probably decide that the model that we picked out of a hat, not out of a hat, we spent a long time thinking about it, but you know, the model that we designed 2 years ago might not be what's the right model for 3 years from
mhm.
now.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Like, because I spoke about this recently. Everyone in this Cosmos chains that they have like max supply, everyone assumed that's it. It's like,
Mhm,
no, like you can change it like right away.
mhm,
And even I saw like the Juno is lower in emission, and I see the people tweeting like, "Wow, it's gonna be so scarce." And like my thought is like, bro, like if they run out with liquidity, like with community pool in few years, they just gonna mint the shit out of the, so it's like never, it's not fixed supply. Like there is no chain. Like I think Jake Harnell even said like even Bitcoin doesn't have like fixed supply. It
mhm.
could be changed one day. It's probably will not. So probably the Bitcoin is the one that is probably closest to the fixed supply, but nothing else has a really close supply. Like if you would issue tokenomics now, if you design, would you make it slightly different?
No, not really. I think I'm
Mhm,
actually pretty happy with the
mhm,
way the tokenomics work
mhm,
right now.
mhm. um I want to get back like maybe to the money uh we have this petrodollar system, right? And I was thinking, we designed crypto thinking we're like maybe designing new money. There's the Bitcoin and there is stuff, and when I'm looking at the market, there is the bigger and bigger importance of the stable coin, and I start to thinking, hey, what if we like actually will leave the petrodollar status and we'll move to crypto dollar status. And especially I'm seeing this, maybe I see it wrong with USDC, right? Because and I think maybe it's happening. um like we have the largest is still USDT. At some point someone might try to speculate on that and try to like test it if they really can cover up. If there is no cover up, the USDT collapse and the importance of USDC grows. So I believe that could be in the business of the people who back up USDC, whoever it is. I don't know if BlackRock is backing it, but but they could, right? So then they could really create this standard of USDC. Do you
Mhm.
feel like, well, you said it will be basket of assets, but do you think these companies, maybe Wall Street, which makes sense of them, like they can put like cash on bank deposits that will sit nicely there and let the USDC grow? Do you think the crypto could get dominated by the dollar stable coin as the major currency?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we're doing. What's happening right now is crypto. Let's see, like in the you know, top five assets by market cap, two of them are stable coins, right?
Mhm.
Top seven, three of them are stable coins.
Three, yeah, wow.
It's like, you have, and speaking of the third one, right? Like I thought, if you go back a month and a half ago, I thought it's like, oh, we're in this two-horse race right now between
Mhm.
Tether and USD, and then BUSD just comes out. Not It didn't come out of nowhere, but the whole like Binance, like, oh, by the way, nope, everyone who has USDC on Binance now has BUSD instead. It's like, oh, okay, maybe we're in a three-horse race, and I actually am not convinced that like it's not going to keep fragmenting. Oh, just today, right? Didn't FTX just announce that they're making their own stablecoin?
I
And so
didn't.
it's like I think there's going to be more and more balkanization of stablecoins, and I don't know who's going to win, to be honest, yet. But at the end of the day, what it is happening is the dollar is winning, and that's not necessarily great for what we wanted from crypto. And I do hope that people, but we see like DAI, for example, moving away from the
Mhm.
dollar peg, and that's like very interesting, right? And so I'm excited to see, you know, uh, I mean, when I talk to Doe about Terra stuff, I always told like, I'm like, hey, like, at some point you have to depeg from the dollar, right? The goal is, and he knew this, right? He's like, oh,
Mhm.
the goal is not to be a dollar pegged stable coin. Originally, Terra started off not with a dollar peg stable coin, right?
Mhm.
They started with the SDR pegged stable coin. But then they realized, okay, to get the initial traction and product market fit, they need the dollar peg stablecoin because that's what the market was
Mhm.
demanding. But like, I think long term, if we're not trying to decorrelate from the dollar, it's like we're not really accomplishing what we set out to do.
Yeah, but then it seems that the trend is like the dollar, right? Like the people want the dollar. So like everyone on Twitter hates the dollar, but at the end of the day, everyone wants the dollar, increasing the demand for the dollar. So if
Yep.
like I would easily imagine like in 5 years maybe USDC having like $1 trillion market cap, like if the really demands grow. But doesn't it create the problem? Because we were speaking of the speculative bubbles, right? And here is the thing. Let me try to connect it. We had more banks in the past. We had more community banks that were doing due diligence to support the local businesses. So let's say smaller tribes. And as the time goes, we head into more of the banking centralization, which is like the bank get merged. We get actually less branches of the banks over time. And
Hmm.
I believe we are moving away from the supporting the local businesses, but banks are incentivizing more of the speculative investments.
Yep.
And I wonder if the move into like USDC doesn't move elevate this process even higher, and the DeFi doesn't elevate the process even higher, because DeFi would be great
Yeah.
if you can get the loan that is maybe not even like fully collateralized to support your business.
Yep.
But what you are doing, you create all DeFi that's surrounded around the USDC stablecoin, which is like I see as on the one central bank, and all the investment and loans that everyone is doing is just speculative assets,
Yep. Yeah.
which risk. Go on.
This is why, like, you mentioned I think a lot about monetary stuff
Hmm.
in Cosmos, but Ethan Buckman, he thinks a lot about this stuff as well, and
Hmm.
I really love the things he talks about with, like, hey, building local currencies, building local economies. Like, you have to build economies from the ground up, and like focusing on these localized
Hmm.
systems, and then intertwining them as they go up, not like building these like top down DeFi systems. So I'm 100% in agreement with you. I mean, I agree with mesh everything, right? And that's my whole philosophy. And mesh economies is the way to do it as well, right? You want localized economies that then have more interdependency with each other. And yeah, I think that's kind of the Cosmos architecture was literally built for this purpose, right? We were like, we need localized blockchains so they can support localized currencies for localized economies, and then they all start intertwining with each other over this IBC protocol.
Yeah.
So that is, and I think the informal team is doing a lot of interesting research and stuff on like moving towards local currencies. One of the projects I really love is called Circles UBI. I think it's like how you create a UBI system out of like a decentralized web of trust. And so I don't know, there's like a lot of innovation and like work to be done on like building these local economies. And this is sort of one of the things our team definitely wants to do. Like, this is our philosophy, and we want to like help build the tools and stuff to enable this sort of experimentation with local economies.
Yeah. This is also like so difficult. Someone commented, like, when I spoke about this centralization and the problem of DeFi, someone commented, no, DeFi is great, it allows person in Africa to buy like American assets. I'm like, this is just so bad. Like, that's not good at all, right? Like, because that's just speculation. So how, because it didn't work, I see it doesn't work, this like this localism. It just, there is attempts, but it doesn't work. Like, we just keep going into this acceleration of centralization. How can we actually get into the localism, tribalism, and support these communities? Is it via sovereign chains,
You
or?
look at the world in the last 5 years, I think we've seen a reversal in the trend toward globalism, right? And we actually
Mhm.
have seen more like countries building more nationalistic lines and stuff. And so I think we have actually at the political level started to see a reversal of trends from globalism. Uh, you're right. From economics, we haven't, but we're actually starting to see that a little bit right now with like how there's a lot more protectionism and stuff starting in like
Mhm.
sanctioning and stuff happening in the world. So you know we are actually seeing a little bit of a reversal of that trend right now.
Mhm. I was thinking maybe NFTs are this, like, because I'm exploring this, and I feel like NFTs are often the keys to the smaller communities. Maybe it will not be app chains. Maybe it will be like NFTs, and them as the DAOs.
Mhm.
I bought some, and I got into groups, and they're like very much into like mindset aligning. Um,
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, one thing when I say about localism is that like it doesn't always have to be like in the physical world, right? You can
mhm,
have digital native communities that are still very localist, right?
mhm,
Um, like one of my Dave, who's like one of the co-founders of Osmosis, right? He's like, I would say some of his closest friends are his CTF group, the capture the it's like these like hacking competitions. And he had like been doing these CTF competitions with these people online that he met online for
mhm,
like years. Like, and he only met them in person for the first time last year. And it's like
mhm,
some of his closest friends we're these like online community, and I think that's like an interesting trend that we're going to start to continue to see, where
Mhm.
communities form online, and then eventually, if you've like been following like some of Balaji's stuff with like network states and stuff, like okay, communities form online in Discord channels and DAOs, and then eventually, okay, they're going to go kind of migrate to like one area and like build. They they will eventually geographically coordinate with each other, because the in person aspect of humanity is like irreplaceable. Maybe
Mhm.
with VR, maybe it'll be different. I don't know, but for now, it's not. And so I think what you do will happen is online communities will start to find each other in the physical world and start to
Mhm.
co-locate each other.
This is exactly how I view it, because like I never used the Discord before crypto, and now I feel I might be even existing recently more into this in the Discord communities than with my like friends in real life. Like, and I see, hey, this Discord community is actually my tribe. We are not it's different, because of course my tribe would be also like unpolished, so the Poland, my hometown, whatever. But also these online communities that don't have the boundaries of the language or the borders. This like also your tribes, and I saw it like, and now I just realized, hey, I think the NFTs, that's the role of NFTs. NFTs are your like your own communities. That I do. You have any thoughts of NFTs? I know you owe the Bat Kit. Do you,
I have one bad kid.
that's a
Uh,
shame.
yeah, I just looked for the one that looked the most like me, and I took
Yeah,
that one.
yeah.
Um, I mean, I really like. I agree with you that NFTs are they'll be a little bit of they'll be like a signaling mechanism
Hmm.
to show what community you're part of. It's going to be
Hmm.
like, you know, the current communities called countries, they have a signaling mechanism called flags. I think these digital communities are going to have signaling mechanisms called NFTs.
Yeah,
I think that's definitely valid.
yeah, like
Right now,
100%.
how do you like right now? You see everyone in Cosmos changing their Twitter profile pictures to bad kids, right? And it's like, oh, bad kids has become like the flag of Cosmos. Like, oh, you show you're part of the Cosmos community by having
Yeah,
a bad Twitter profile picture.
yeah, that's what I was aiming for, like the Bat Kids. Like like you see the Bat Kid, it's a Cosmos guy now. Like,
Yeah,
and I'm not sure if even if it will go outside of the Cosmos, but it doesn't have to.
yeah.
Like, because it's the inner culture. Um, what I also see with NFTs, especially with the Twitter, I like the Twitter as the social network so much. Like if you are public, like you are public persona, you are Sunny. I go as the Don, but everyone knows how I look. If I have the opinion that is politically incorrect, I might not really go and say it. But if I go to my like NFT community tribe and I run the like NFT PFP, I will not stop myself and no one will know. But people like, so they also allow you to be like, I can get one of the bad kids, make the PFP, become the part of the community and be anon, and I can kind of like be myself as this character. Like I will share my opinions more than I could as myself, as like my perception in this character.
Yeah.
So that's another.
So one of the things that we do want to do is move away from this idea of like right now these NFTs you can just buy them, right? And it's like, oh,
Mhm.
you just buy your way into a community, and that's not what we want, right? What That's kind of the experiment that we're building with the Wasmo NFTs, which is like, how can we make like these NFTs that represent your membership in a community, specifically in the Osmosis community, but
Mhm.
you earn your way into them. So how we do it is, okay, step one, be a user, you get the base
Mhm.
NFT, but then you start earning accessories and more things by being more active and doing stuff in the community, right? So like you'll get accessories for, you know, if you used Osmosis at least 3 days in the week for the past month or something, right? Or you'll get something if you're in at least 4 pools or
Mhm.
something. Or you'll get a birthday hat if you were a user on the 1 year anniversary of
Mhm.
Osmosis. And it's like it's ways of signal, like I said, it's signaling membership in a group. And but it's like, hey, we have to show that you actually earned your way into that, not just
Mhm.
bought your way into that. And that's sort of the experiment that we're trying to do with Wasmo NFTs. And it's this is why it's taking a while. This is I don't think anyone's done this well in crypto yet. Every NFT has, so we're really trying to make sure we nail it correctly. But you I don't know if people saw Josh Lee's tweet today, Dogecoin's tweet today. He had this thing of like, what if Osmosis was more than just a DEX? What if it was a lifestyle? And that's kind of like, that's getting that
Mhm.
right really hard, which is why it's taking longer than expected. But we're working towards it.
Yeah, I'm checking this tweet now. There's like is this a potion? Like it's the NFTs, right? That you have
Uh,
now.
the potion, I know if you go, he had one more recent than that, which is like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
if
yeah.
Osmosis?
Like, but I mean, like, there is also potion. Like, so that's aim at that, right? Those,
Yeah.
like that was such a great move, and I don't think
Yeah.
even it was like foreseen, but the great, like the osmosis, it's the branding. Like you see Wasmongton, like you see potions, like this is osmosis.
Mhm.
There is, I don't think there is other cryptos that have such a strong branding like osmosis. Like you could like you know the osmosis NFTs could be launched and they would be successful because of the branding, like is so strong. Like with osmosis, you build the brand, right? Like these potions and everything. Which kind
Mhm.
of came naturally. Like I don't think you predicted it back then, right? But maybe you
Mhm.
did. Um, I think Stride out. Like let's go, let's go to Stride. Well, like let me know if you have to finish that though. Um,
Finish what?
if you will have to go, just let me know, okay?
Yeah.
I like the Stride guys. And I know you like there was some discussion about liquid staking. Maybe you want to like say like some issues about liquid staking first. Like I think there was discussion recently with like Jay you had, right, about the issues with that.
Yeah. Someone did point out in the chat that POAPs have been this like phenomenon in Ethereum where it has been sort of earning your way into communities by showing you've attended these events. So that is a good point. It's not the first one, but I think figuring out how to take that and make them as part of the avatars, the
Hmm.
signaling mechanism. People don't usually make POAPs into their profile picture. I think
Hmm.
that's what we're trying to figure out how to do with Wasmo NFTs. Sorry. Okay. So your question about Stride.
So
And
sorry
liquid.
to stop you here. This is really important because I see a lot of
Yes.
NFTs like they don't look good as the
Mhm.
profile. This is so important. Like there might be great art, but you cannot drown in this persona because it's not
Yep.
like so.
Mhm.
That's good point. Yeah, go on.
Um, yeah. So liquid staking. Anyone if you've seen my talk from Cosmoverse last year, I'm not the biggest fan of liquid staking. I think it is definitely has like very negative impacts on the security of profile of proof of stake. Like, we designed proof of stake with these unbonding periods for a reason,
Mhm.
right? Like, we want to make sure that like the right person gets slashed.
Mhm.
Um, with liquid staking, someone's getting slashed, but it's not always the right person getting slashed, and
Mhm.
that's not good. And so the okay, so we have to uh not so I don't think the chain should be like promoting liquid staking at the base layer, right? I don't think
Mhm.
Osmosis should be like making it easier to do liquid staking. Now, and that's why we build alternatives, right? And like I think trying to ban liquid staking is not going to work. People are always
Mhm.
going to fight their way around it. And so our goal was like, how do we do this? Is let's provide something that's better, or you know, let's say it's like 90% as good, solves as much of the problem, and
Mhm.
it has a better UX. And like that's what superfluid staking was. It's like,
Mhm.
hey, let's get a lot of the benefits. You still get your staking reward and using it in DeFi, but like this is at least more safer for the chain than liquid staking would be. And so, I think providing some a better alternative is how you actually fight things. Now, maybe we're in this losing battle. Maybe it's not going to work, right? And maybe
Mhm.
liquid staking is inevitable, right? And so I really do like the Stride team because they at least are, I really like the same thing happened with the Skip team as well, where it's like they're always Stride is very open to like feedback and like, hey,
Mhm.
here's how we would design things to be like productive with the chains, right? It's like, okay, I've made them suggestions of like, okay, what we don't want is someone to take over the Stride chain and like, shift all the delegation to one validator and use that as a way to take over the chain, right? So,
Mhm.
okay, how do you solve this? Let's build in rate limiting, right? Let's make it so Stride can't change its delegation in 1 second. It takes, it has to change, has to slow down the rate of change, and you can do that using cosmosm contracts on the source chains. And so there's things that you can do to like make liquid staking safer. So that's what it's like, yeah, let's do that for now. I'm not the biggest fan of liquid staking, but if it is going to happen, let's at least make it safer, right? And so I think the
Mhm.
Stride team has been pretty good at that. And I think there's other liquid staking teams out there as well, and I think the Quicksilver team is pretty open to this kind of stuff as well. And so
Mhm.
happy to see more. And we want to make sure there's a free competitive market. We don't want one. This is a problem in Ethereum where there's one liquid staking protocol that like owns the entire market, and I think that's very bad. So I want to see more competition in the liquid staking market
Mhm.
in Cosmos.
Yeah, I asked you about Stride because like I'm in contact with them, and they're like I know like some people assumed that you supported them, uh but I was
Um,
like very impressed by the drive they have.
yeah,
Like
so
I feel they are just such hardworking people.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I actually didn't even know them that well. Like I
Mhm.
had we actually overlapped at Berkeley, but I had never met them when I was at Berkeley. I
Mhm.
actually I met them for the first time like honestly, the first time I met them was the day before their launch. I was at a co-working space in New York, and they happened to be there. And I'm like, "Oh, you guys are the Stride guys." And so,
Mhm.
I met them there. And then what happened was just that later that night, I went out like, it was like a Friday night or something. I was like drinking or going to some party or something. And I left my backpack at the co-working space. So I come back at like 2 a.m. and like I'm like, oh, let me get my backpack. And they're like they're on their laptops, like grinding. And it's like, okay, it is their launch week. So obviously it is like they're gonna be there, but it's like, I don't know, I just like the dedication and like, they seem like hardworking guys.
Yeah, like I heard that about them, that they were like literally like sleeping in the offices or something, trying to be the first ones. You had the plans about the co-working space in New York, isn't it?
Yeah. It is still part of the in progress, finding real estate, yeah, it's in progress. We're evaluating a couple of existing co-working spaces versus maybe getting our own co-working space.
Mhm.
Like, you know,
Why New
real
York?
Uh, there's a lot of crypto people in New York. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
I mean, I live in New York just because I like the city of New York.
Oh, you
Uh,
live in, I thought you still at Berkeley, so I thought I thought you are in the PST time. Like,
I'm pretty nomadic. I live in
Mhm.
I spend half my time in New York, or probably less than half my time, way less
Yeah.
than half of my time. And other third, I was in Colombia. Now I'm in Berkeley for a month. I'm going to Australia in next week. Um, so that I'm pretty nomadic in general. But like,
Wh-
what?
why Australia? What's going on there?
There's a Dogecoin hackathon going on there.
Well, that's good. Yeah, like I mean, Dogecoin is like really promising. It has like I could argue Dogecoin has the best tokenomics out there, like for now.
In fact, Jay is somewhat responsible for Dogecoin's tokenomics. So Dogecoin is supposed to have a fixed cap, but
Mhm.
then there was a bug in it. And so someone pointed out the bug. So you can go on the GitHub issue for this. Someone
Mhm.
pointed out the bug, and the Dogecoin developer, I forgot who it was. It wasn't Jackson, it was someone else. He was like, oh, like, hey, let's, we should fix this. And then Jay comments on that GitHub issue. He's like, no, 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 let's keep it like this. It's actually kind
Mhm.
of cool to have this like continuous tail end emission. And so the Dogecoin developer is like, okay, yeah, we'll keep it like this. And so in a funny way, Jay is actually responsible for the Dogecoin
Yeah.
tokenomics. But no, so I mean, look, Dogecoin has been toying around with the idea for a while of switching to proof of stake.
Mhm.
And I think that there is some interest in starting to explore that
Mhm.
idea further. And so I'm going there to just sort of provide feedback and like, hey, if you guys are interested in this, here's how you would do it. This is how you would integrate with Tendermint and all this kind of stuff. And like, it'll be great for Cosmos if a top 10 coin is, or another top 10 coin is now running on top of Tendermint.
I heard from Matt Bell, the Nomic guy, that one of the early, not sure if the founders of Dogecoin is actually validator on Nomic chain. Don't know which one is this, but he's like quite engaged.
Jackson
Like,
Palmer.
yeah.
My greatest accomplishment in life, what I want on my tombstone, is I once beat Jackson Palmer in a Dogecoin themed scavenger hunt. It was at the Dogecoin conference in like 2018, and there was like a 4 hour long scavenger hunt, and my team beat Jackson Palmer's team by like 60 seconds, and so that's how close it was. But yeah, that's my greatest accomplishment.
Wow, congratulations with that. But I want to say, like, I love, like getting back to I love New York. I visited New York this year, and I feel I could live there. I love the cities that have the, many people say like, oh, New York is messy. It has a lot of junk. It's like, that's the
Yeah,
beauty. Like, I love to
that's
walk on this.
New York is just pure chaotic energy, and it's like I love it. It's like
Yeah.
it feels like this very bottom up, like energy and just like spontaneous order through chaos. It's like I really like that.
Yeah, I like it too. I like when I walk and I see people carrying something, because there is like it's hassle making your own dollar like all the time. Hong Kong has had the same vibe, but like now, like in New York, it's like, yeah, I could live there. It's just so great. And someone said like New York has like pretty restrictive crypto regulations, but there is like Stride, Stargaze. You said you're in New York. I guess maybe you could guys like partner and make this like crypto co-working space, not on Osmosis, right? Like it would
Yeah,
be.
so there's not that many Osmosis people in New York. There's like
Yeah.
2 or 3. I'm there less than half the time. I split my time between New York and Florida a lot. So yeah, like there's a lot of Cosmos people in New York. There's like, I mean, the whole DYDX team is a lot of them are in New York. There's a lot of Stargaze people in New York. Yeah, Stride is there. Skip is there. The Apollo team is there. Cato team is there. So there's like a lot of people. There's a lot of in general. There's a lot of crypto people in New York, and then there's a lot of Cosmos people in New York. And I think it'll be really cool to have like a Cosmos co-working space there.
Like why we don't do the Cosmoverse in New York? Why don't we do the Cosmoverse in like real city, like where we have like I
I
don't
think
want
we to
shit.
do it in like Latin America. I think like at Cosmoverse, there was a lot of people from like from Colombia, from like local neighboring country or nearby countries, right? And I think it was cool to like kind of bring crypto education and bring these things to new places rather than the same few cities that everything else is always in.
Yeah, I guess I'm just like that lazy, I like I want the big international airport and good juicy steak. That's
We
all I
had some
want.
good steaks. I had a lot of steak in Colombia. It was pretty good.
Yeah, were they like, but were they like really good? Were they like dissolving? Like were like really tender? Was it
No,
just
no, okay. In Colombia, they definitely the steaks were definitely a little bit overcooked. I'll say that they don't do a rare.
that is the you see, you can always like, and maybe that sounds bad, like I feel you can always see the level of development of it based on how good steak there is. Like it's um like in 90s in Poland, like even 15 years ago, you couldn't get good steak. It was all overcooked. The concept of like medium rare or rare like was so weird. But also like I we went few months. Sorry.
I said that's interesting. I'm gonna try to like see how I'm gonna like keep this in mind every time I visit a new place. I'm gonna like see what the correlation between steak quality and
Like
like economic development is.
please do, because I do feel like you could really judge this way. Like, and New York would be like, there is the New York as the great stake, and you have like really high development London and places like this. But then you could go to like less developed countries, and they will have like great service, great atmosphere, and many people will enjoy that because maybe not many people are like steak connoisseur. That's and um
That's
we
fascinating.
like we me and my wife a few months ago, like, so we did New York, like Vegas, Mexico, and we went in Mexico City, and we googled this grill place, and we're like, oh, we are going for this good steak, and they had like beautiful menu, like proper grill place, and they had like New York cut and stuff, and we ordered that. And we, like, as soon as we started eating this, like this sadness was like overwhelming. It was like just chewy. It presentation of that was so good. So then when we went back to New York, we went for a steak, and this was like, bliss for the soul, just so tender, so
Mhm.
I have this concept, but I'm afraid that's a little like discriminatory, saying that you could judge the development of the country. Sunny, why is Osmo pumping? People are asking.
Why is Osmo pumping? It's obvious because I came on this episode and like
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh my god, he's finally on Don's YouTube, and that's probably what it is. I think.
I'm going to use this as the marketing for people to come over. Like, look what happens. Like, he just came chatting, and like the price pumped 30%. That's the effect. Like, I joined the Stargaze 2 weeks ago, or something, like not non-contract, like non-official, but like Shane gave me a job, and the
Mhm.
price performed like 30% up. So I'm just saying it's purely because of me. Like, that's the effect. Um, Mesh security. There is something like that. You keep saying that we could use the security from the different chains that you validate. So there's like, I feel there is the war between the hub and others using mesh security. But my question is, do we really even need that? I feel we are pretty good with the just. I think it's easy to get the good set of validators. Like Osmosis started, and it has good validators. Why do we even need mesh security? I think the concept that there is so difficult to find validators and stuff like this is a big overstatement.
Yeah, I agree. So mesh security is not supposed to solve the finding validators problem. What it's
Hmm.
supposed to do is making it so more economic stake is backing the validators on the chain, right? So the thing is, you can go buy up a third of Osmo and then stake it and then use that to attack a chain, right? And so the idea is, hey, let's increase the economic cost of doing that. So let's say two chains like Osmosis and Juno do mesh security with each other. You don't have to buy one third of Osmo, you have to buy one third of Osmo plus Juno. And
Hmm.
so the idea is that we just increase the cost of doing an attack. So that's the point. It's both the chains both still have their own validator sets, sovereignty,
Hmm.
but it's like you know these chains want to increase the security cost of them, and this is very important for like imagine a chain like Osmosis and Axelar, right? Like
Hmm.
70% of Axelar TVL is Osmosis. Four of the top 10 assets on Osmosis are from Axelar. It's like how it would suck a lot for Osmosis if Axelar got attacked, right? It would
Hmm.
also suck a lot for Axelar if Osmosis got attacked. So let's do it so like, to take over any of the chains, they have to, take over. You have to take over the market cap of Osmo should be helping secure Axelar, and it is in Osmosis's interest to do that. And so
Hmm.
that's sort of the idea behind mesh security.
Hmm. um yeah, that's really good. And sorry for like my wife sneaking here and trying to take the cat away. uh she's like sliding on the floor, like, because so
Oh,
sorry for that. she has a lunch break. She has a lunch break because, like, I was asking because a lot of talk and everyone says like, oh, we don't need mesh security. Wow, it doesn't make any sense, right?
I think it's strictly value add, and it's an opt-in thing. That's
Mhm,
the beauty of everything in Cosmos. Everything is opt-in. If
mhm,
Osmosis and Axelar want to do mesh security, that is a
mhm,
decision between two consenting chains, right? And it's like
mhm.
that doesn't impact a third chain, and if it's not forcing anyone to do mesh security. That's always
Yeah.
been the vision of Cosmos.
I also kind of feel the mesh security can be less bureaucratic than the Cosmos, because you said like, hey, if Axelar wants to do with us, it's like common, like, hey, let's do it. But with Cosmos, there's like all this bureaucratic process that I think will be much slower, and I kind of feel this like other chains might like ship this faster. So that
Yeah,
could be the
the
strength.
speed of shipping mesh security has, to be
Mhm,
honest, surprised me because I'll admit we came up with this as an idea to present at Cosmoverse, and we made it clear to people
mhm,
that like, hey, we don't have time to build this until next year, like until 2023, because right now our team is focused on shipping stable swap, cross chain
mhm,
swaps, and concentrated liquidity. Those are our like focuses. But then as soon as when I presented it, so many people were so excited by it, like Jake Hartnell from Juno, and then Ethan Fry from Confio. They're like, okay, we're gonna building it this weekend, and they started hacking on it and got a lot done, like a proof of concept. And now there's more people contributing to it. There's like, it has a lot of people contributing to it,
mhm,
and it's like really cool to see like it's really what it is mesh development on top of
mhm.
for mesh security. It's not Osmosis is actually probably one of the least teams that have been contributing on the code side the least. It's been like a lot of Juno people, DAO people. It's been really cool to see.
Like people probably like never thought that Osmosis would work with Juno. So I think the kind of like some chains getting wrecked along the way improve the relationships with others.
I don't
Um,
know. I mean, I feel like everyone like seemed to like over exaggerate this like conflict between
mhm,
Osmosis and Juno that I don't think was actually there. Like we like individual people of the Osmosis community, including me, like there was a governance proposal on Juno that we had strong opinions on, and we were in the minority of the opinion. But we are, me, I'm very vocal about all my opinions, and I voiced my opinion on a governance proposal on Juno. And then it somehow turned into this narrative of, oh,
mhm.
Osmosis and Juno hate each other and are fighting. It's like, what? Like, this had nothing to do with Osmosis, even. This was literally like I was voicing an opinion on a governance proposal of Juno. And like, just because I was in the minority, it's now an attack on Juno. It's like,
Yeah.
that's not how that's crazy. Like, I always, Jake is one of my like favorite people in like crypto. And like, I think that like, I'm really happy to, I'm happy that we're like even collaborating on a lot of like new development stuff. And, I think the Juno Osmosis relationship is like great.
This is what people don't get, that Twitter is just Twitter. Like and I remember these moments, like there was someone shares opinion, and this is also interesting social experiment, like how people react to those things, right? Like, so oh, like here is the person, we remember Sunny Juno Prop 16 fad. So essentially, like, what not to fad about Prop 16?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. I
it's like
was
what
fighting
not.
Prop 16. I hated Prop 16, and I still to this day think Prop 16 was a bad idea. That
It's
doesn't mean I
horrible.
hate, like
Yeah.
if I have a strong thought on one governance proposal, that doesn't mean I hate the chain.
So like I was I was very vocal against Prop 16, and people ask me to leave the Juno community. Like
Yeah, like yeah,
so but it's like so it means you are not allowed to be against. So like, let's say one chain has the leader, so you are like viewed maybe as the leader of Osmosis, even though it's not necessarily fully true because there's many people. And if someone comes at you and says like Sana is dumb, and then everyone jump on them like, hey, you father, Osmo father, get out of this, like, like, we don't like you here. And this was the case. But interesting, and also the longer Cosmos conversation goes, like the chances of approaching the Prop 16 subject hits one, right, or zero. Like so Prop 16, people I think now see the negative impact of that. And I see also the relation, the hate towards me from Juno community is much less now than back then. And I think because of the realization of the mistakes. And I like to observe Twitter. I saw the people who were like very excited about this. For 2 months after Prop 16, they were tweeting about being depressed. Now I don't see them on Twitter anymore, which
Hmm.
is another like so I think that there was a lot of mistakes. But like, yeah, Twitter is just like, I realize the more like offensive I will get sometimes, just trolling, right? Like, the more engagement I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
Just um so like recently, I give you another example, which was I had to get. I tweeted I sold all my bad kits and I'm out. Thank you for like buying them or something like. Essentially, I tweeted that it was my exit liquidity. People in the Bad Kids Discord start saying like, "Hey, what's with Don Kryptonium? He's a part of validator of the Bad Kids, so I undelegated from the Bad Kids." And I'm like, "Come on, like." You're not fun here. It's Bad Kid community. It's meant to be fun. So like people get this too literal, Twitter.
Yeah.
Um, Of course, the Figment dumped. People, if you have some questions at the end for Sunny, Sunny, is there anything that you never asked, and you are like, why never? No one asked me this question.
Hmm.
Difficult one, right?
Yeah. I don't know if my brain index is off of what I haven't been asked.
Mm,
I mean,
something you
I
want,
really
like,
like that this episode was like way more like, oh, we just talk about like monetary systems and stuff instead of like, oh, like osmosis roadmap. So I think this is way more fun and interesting. That's the stuff I love to talk about. You know, so I'm happy we got to do that quite a bit. Um, yeah.
yeah. Thank you. Like I'm just like stupid guy, and I love to think of like money and monetary systems. And always when I talk, like people come and like try to roast me, like, "Oh, you shouldn't speak, like you don't know anything about Bitcoin." But I just think like the money is like the like so beautiful, trying to figure out how it works. So I always like to chat about this. So I'm asking, is ion like photon on osmosis?
No, I mean, Ion is it started as a meme coin that then, it got a team behind it and started to actually get like, now I don't know if people have seen the Ion 3.0 proposal. Um, one thing, by the way, to clear things up, I'm not the developer. I'm not the one building this Ion 3.0 stuff, right? There's another team that's building it called AlphaWorks, and they are sort of leading. I'm just like giving feedback here and there, but like so this Ion 3.0 thing. It's the idea is like, hey, turn Ion into the governance token of uh, create an index token for Cosmos. So it's called IBCX. And that's like, hey, let's create an ETF sort of thing, but for all the Cosmos ecosystem assets. So right now there's this problem, which like there's no way to invest in Cosmos because Cosmos doesn't
Mhm.
have a token, right? There's no token like it for the Cosmos ecosystem. So what do? Is you have to have a index of all the Cosmos assets, right? And so let's say like something like market cap weighted or square root market cap weighted or something like that, right? Where they're like, okay, look, I mean, it'll be like some portion Atom, some portion Osmo, some portion Juno, some portion Secret, some portion Stars, like, it'll all of these and Ion will just be it'll be a governance system for that. It'll choose which tokens to add because you don't want scam tokens part of this index, right?
Mhm.
So there has to be some minimum bar that Ion can be the governance token for that. And then we can have this index token as like, push it as, hey, you want to invest in the IBC ecosystem? You buy IBCX, right? That's how you do it. and it's a portfolio bet. And then the nice thing is, because it's this diversified portfolio bet, hopefully it's more risk-free than any individual token, and then it's a good collateral to be used throughout different things in Cosmos, right? And so
Mhm.
then the other product they want to create is a stable coin called IOU, which is going to be a over collateralized stablecoin backed by IBCX. So
Mhm.
it's a stablecoin backed by a portfolio of Cosmos assets. And so that's what they're building right now. And Ion is going to be just the governance token
Mhm.
of these things. And, it can get some, yeah, so that's kind of what Ion is. It's like, it's the governance token of a new protocol. And maybe one day it'll probably break off onto its own chain at some point.
Mhm. Like someone like asking IBCX, but like I think they might be getting after like the deceptive marketing of that
The
IBCX.
deceptive. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, it was a name that
Oh no,
I
maybe they just I don't know GLP on RB.
GLP is a token from GMX on
Hmm.
to derivatives protocol on Arbitrum, and it's sort of this like portfolio LP position.
Hmm.
So similar, but I mean, here it's not a liquidity providing position. It's more like the better analogy is DPI, DeFi Pulse Index, and it's a token on Ethereum that's it's a basket of a bunch of DeFi
Hmm.
assets. So it has
Hmm.
like Aave, Compound, Uni, Maker. It has like it's an index of DeFi index.
Yeah, like people ask you about the hair products because your hair is so beautiful. Uh,
Uh,
so do you use
I
something special or just naturally have such beautiful hair?
No, I mean I think today it's natural. Sometimes I'll put in like straightener because I have very curly hair. People are like, hey, your profile picture, your bad kid has like curly hair, but
Mhm.
like because my hair is like very curly naturally, so I have to like put like straightener in it.
Right. Well, I'm a little bit jealous. My hair very miserable, balding. I medicate myself to not lose more hair. So is um do you worry about DYDX stealing some of your equity or no?
No, not really. I mean, I think we're like I think DYDX is very much focused on like the derivatives market right
Mhm.
now. While we're more focused on spot. Maybe down the road we start to do more derivative stuff.
Mhm.
They maybe start to do spot, but I think like our architectures are pretty different.
Mhm.
They're building these like off-chain order book style thing, and I think that's a very interesting design. I'm worried about the MEV on that, while we're going for a more fully on-chain approach. And so we'll see how those work out. But in
Mhm.
general, we've actually been working together on a lot of things. So like we've been collaborating on, helping USDC come over to
Mhm.
Cosmos. We've been collaborating on like even what DYDX wants to do is their Ethereum users, they have the Ethereum USDC and they need to have Osmosis. So they need to have like Cosmos native USDC. So they want to make it easy to like use Osmosis as stable swaps to allow users to convert to the right
Mhm.
USDC, go to DYDX. So and then like they're pretty new to Cosmos, and our team has been building the stack for a long time, and so we help them out a lot on like just helping them with how to set up
Mhm.
test nets and just yeah. I think our teams have been very collaborative actually.
Mhm. And someone asking about when Sunny Daily Facts on Twitter.
Uh at some point I gotta do it. Yeah, it's I miss them. It was once Osmosis launched, it became really hard. Um, I I try to post them every now and then. I'm gonna see if I can get back into a more regular, maybe once a week or something like that.
Uh, do you know like I need to say that at the end because he asked me to Angry Mouse. Do you know user called Angry Mouse? The user that tried to hold Osmo.
Yes, I do. I mean I don't know them personally, but
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
heard.
He
Yeah,
asked me if you can unblock them, unblock him
from where is he blocked?
on Twitter.
I blocked him personally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He said he's blocked, or
Oh,
maybe it's on the Telegram Osmo Telegram because he said he was kicked
Oh, I
out.
see.
He's actually
Uh,
very,
I
hmm?
don't manage the Telegram. That's like
Yeah,
you have to reach out to the support team
very
and
talented guy. I think he's like 18. You know,
hmm,
like he's like his abilities are like, but you can see like the age sometimes. Yeah, like I'm gonna try to hold Osmo.
yeah.
It didn't
If you're
listen.
gonna halt something, maybe submit a bug report first, or if you're really like, I want to do this in prod, go halt the test net. Don't try to do it on mainnet. That's not cool.
Well, I spoke to him and he said he was speaking in the Telegram about this issue that Osmo could be halted this way, and he said it was ignored.
Yeah, but none of the devs don't spend our time on like
Yeah,
reading every
yeah,
program. There's other ways to get a hold of us.
yeah. But like I'm in touch with him, like very nice boy. So like said, I'm going live with Sunny, and he said, oh, can you ask him to unblock me? Not sure where.
Yeah,
Um,
I can ask.
what's your favorite book at the end?
My
Do you
favorite
have a
book.
favorite book? Yeah,
Um, yeah, I think my favorite is probably Zero to One, by Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel. Yeah.
That's probably my favorite. High up there is probably Swarmwise.
Mhm.
Swarmwise by Rick Falkfinch. He was the founder of the Pirate Party. And it's about how to create like decentralized movements that are like, and then yeah, there's a couple others. I actually have, if you go on my website, if you go to Sunny, my website is sunnya97.com, same as my handle. And if you go /canon, it actually has a list of my like favorite books and articles and stuff, and just things that have like generally shaped my worldview.
Oh yeah, I see zero. Yeah, like so everyone like let me share it here. That's really cool. Like I like this question because like asking like someone or what you read is always
Mhm.
giving you uh some cool idea. Do you watch movies? Like
What
that's
do you
a little different story. Like what movies you like?
Um, I actually like TV shows more than movies, to be honest. But I don't know, like
What's the best TV shows you've seen?
Mr. Robot is my favorite show.
Hmm. I watched like the first two seasons and then I stopped, but it was like really intense.
So
So
here's the thing: everyone watches the second season and stops. Like I know 90% of people I think watch the second season. The rank order of the seasons goes: season 3 is the best, then season 1, then season 4, then season 2. So the problem is everyone's like, wow, season 1, amazing. Then they like watch season 2 and they're like, oh, this is so bad. Or like it's just not the same. But then they're missing out on the like pinnacle of television that is season 3.
okay, I'm gonna get into season three. There's also like the more I age, the less I watch. Uh,
Mhm.
it's like sometimes I want to. I used to watch so many TV shows, like I am huge fan of like Sopranos. For me, it's like the top of the because I'm not non-developer, so probably that's
I
why
only
maybe.
I only
Hmm?
started watching The Sopranos recently, like couple of months ago. But I grew up in New Jersey, and I think watching The Sopranos has given me a new like how I look at New Jersey. It's like, whoa, like just walk by this Italian deli and like, oh, what's going on in the back there? And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, it's been really interesting.
Yeah, for me it's like really good because it actually like it's big representation of like also the like the very the life in the simple meaning, but by simple I mean good, like the family life, the growing up and things like this.
Mhm.
So anyway, we passed 2 hours. Like Sunny, thank you for your time. It's like middle of the night. I'm gonna get off, like do the coffee for my wife, friends in this lunch break. It was amazing to talk to you. It's possible that I maybe missed something I wanted to ask you, but I never like write down. So yeah, like I hope maybe one day we can do it again. Like so
Mhm.
once again, thank you. Like this was such a great insights from you. So and enjoy your night.
Awesome. Thank you. This was really
Thank you.
fun.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.